we I was outside because I used the bathroom and everything else. It really doesn't matter. I was outside, and we had went a few times to church, and I was like, okay, I need to get out because I was kind of getting just tired of it. And what brought me in was this one guy, as they were sharing testimonies, said something that I'd done. And it really brought me out of, in that night, I went to him and I found him. Because if you were there, you knew that they went out into the crowd and everything else. So I made sure to find him and to pray about, because he had went there and he had got out. So his relatability to me had me out. And kind of brought me out of what I was in. So, then, second point is to bless you. So, one of the ways that this really happens is described in Hebrews 12, 27, and 28. What can be shaken, that is, created things so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with our reverence and awe. So this kind of says that in our crisis, in that time of shaking things, whenever God is shaking up our lives and completely destroying different foundations and everything else, that's allowing a new blessing to come on us. I follow Joyce Myers on Instagram, and I saw one of the things that really spoke to me, and while it was actually earlier today, and it was, she said, I can't remember the word, but she said that for God to give you a new heart, and for God to make you something new, He has to reject the old heart, and in rejecting the old heart, He destroys it. Now, I don't know if you've ever known of a heart transplant or anything else, but from what I hear, they're pretty tough, and that it's just straight tough. So it's not going to be something simple in shaking in God destroying our old heart to make us new, to bless us more. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be just a pushover. It's going to come down to, it's either I fall or I press into God. And whenever you press into God, you're going to become renewed and you will be blessed. He kind of, I don't really know why I didn't put this on the fourth point, but he does it for also to test us, in a sense. And if you want to look at a testing, blessing, a crisis, you can look at Job. If you want to look at Job in itself, I can't remember if it was a day or a week or so on, but he lost everything, legitimately everything. His cattle, his kids, everything. He was left with nothing. But if you remember, he was left with nothing that day but sickness and his wife. I can't remember his wife, but never mind. But he was left with bare minimum. And the next day or after the tribulation and everything, he still see God. And through the test and through the crisis, wasn't he blessed with 3 times over or something? 2 or 3 times over. Yeah. So still, through crisis, blessing. And also with the Israelites. Look back at the Israelites. They were in slavery for 400 years, right? And in that slavery, there was mass casualties, overworking, just the everything you think about slavery. Worse than what happened in Civil War times and everything else. And in that time, they were in crisis, right? So, in that crisis, Moses, we know the story. Whenever he came through, and he said, I'm going to take my people out. They traveled in the desert and everything else for 40 years. In that 40 years, if you recall, they had their back against the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army coming one way. In that, they were in crisis because they had nothing else to do. Either you believe on God, or in Moses' terms, either you believe on God and save your people, or you die. And his obedience and his seeking led to a blessing in going to Canaan later on, and going to the promised land, and being blessed. And then a third reason is to grow closer. In the sense of God allows our crisis to happen for the pure fact of we need to get closer to Him. That's one of the telltale ways I've told my life is that whenever I'm in my bottom and in my down and out, whenever I can do nothing but praise and say, God, I need your help, that's where I get that shaking, and I do become blessed, and I do grow closer to Him. Because before this, I was in a really tough time before I started doing devotions and everything else and where I am today. And looking back again in Exodus 14 with the Israelites, I already said that. But that kindly reminds me of growing closer to God in the sense of you're going to lose. Simple in life. If you haven't, please tell me your secret. Honestly, just go on. But it kind of reminds me of I can't remember which Samuel, but the altar of Ebenezer. And in that, if you don't know the story because it was brought to me new, in the altar of Ebenezer, the Israelites had just come to an upset defeat, or upset victory. I can't remember who, but they had just now won. And Samuel was the king at that time, and he wanted to put an altar up so people can come and praise God, like there was multiple before. And the point of this altar, the altar of Ebenezer, was so people could come and say, the God that done this can also do this. So you can take that and say, the God that put me and blessed me in this crisis can take me out and bless me again and let me grow closer to Him. And no matter where you are, and no matter what you're doing, you can always get closer. There's Perry Stone and Jensen Franklin, they can get closer. They're holy men. So in that getting closer, of course they have trials and tribulations, they become blessed. And any blessing, or any time you grow closer, God, you get a blessing. And so with that, I know that was really short, really quick. I'm sorry. That was terrible. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not done. So, personal experience with me. And just overall, I recently went through something, I'm not going to give all the details, where I was heartbroken. I was defeated. Just, me and Alyssa had a few talks about it. It's just different things. And in that, I had nothing to do. Honestly, at that time, I wasn't thinking about praising God, just for the brutal honesty of it. I was so far, I didn't want to. And it was in that time of need that I had felt a really, tug on my heart, and I didn't really know what it was, in the sense of, I just didn't know. And with me, I was just in my bedroom listening to music, and I was just sitting there. Had no feeling, nothing. And I felt this tugging in my heart. And then I started talking to Alyssa, and she told me a song, and I listened to it. And that song, I'm not kidding, I was up till about 4 o'clock at night doing nothing but praising by the end of the night. And I'm not kidding, there's been a few times where it was so late and so just in the morning hours, really, that I was touched by God, and I did have my blessing come through that nightly crisis. I had my revelation come. If y'all remember and was here for Perry Stone, whenever he was here, he spoke about the 11:59 to 12. What happens at 12:01? And what I've come to believe, and kind of getting off subject, what I come to believe is at 12:01 is whenever you break through the I'm getting out of here and I'm going to praise for it. That's where you really get the divine closeness to God. It's whenever you're out of the crisis or going out. And it's that 12:01 time that I was in, whenever I started really feeling God, where I started really getting in that divine interlocking with God, where I could really feel His presence by myself. And if I know that was really short.
It's okay.